Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in. This is the Accounting Trailblazers podcast. Our trailblazer today is Justin Crosslin. He is the co managing principal at Crosslin, which is a full service CPA firm based in Nashville, Tennessee. He took over the firm from his father, who was the founder. When I met him for the first time, what I loved is how he has modernized the firm and how he has grown the firm like leaps and bounds. And we'll talk about that in the podcast. He's also won several awards, like 40 Under 40, National Emerging Leaders Award, Nashville Emerging Leaders Award, Young Leader of the Year, Power Leader in Finance. And yes, some of those awards, the younger ones, were a few years back, but he has a long list of those. We're very, very lucky to have him. Justin, welcome and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So tell us a bit about like your firm, what do you do, how you got started at the firm, and your journey to managing principal.
Sure. My father started the firm almost 40 years ago, and we've been growing it since I joined the firm almost 20 years ago. And I spent, about 13 or 15 years in the healthcare industry, in the operations and finance side, and then I joined the firm. And so I came at it a little bit differently than my brother, who we co-managed with, my brother John, who started out with a large, big, one of the big four, and then joined the firm and is an auditor by trade. Um, but it really having that diversified experience in co-leading the company really allows us to focus on things that we might not ordinarily do or have the time to do. Whereas he's more focused on the client service side of things, I'm more focused on the operations and finance. But that strategy piece um, really melds when we've got the varied experience. And so that's kind of how we have approached it. My brother and I have always been involved in team sports through college, and so we wanted as we began to take over for my dad, we wanted to make sure we build that team experience, and so we've worked very hard on that.
And it shows. So my next question was around one of the reasons I wanted to interview you was because how modern your firm is. Like try to sell to a lot of accounting firms. And one of the things I see a lot with accounting firms is it's so hard to bring about any sort of change. And especially firms that are, that have second generation owners that are like 40, 50 years old. And you've brought about a lot of transformation, right? You're using AI a lot. You started offshoring 20 years ago. Even your experience with M&A. So how did you bring about transformation in a firm that was old, that was like not founded by you? So tell me more about that. Like how did you bring everybody else on board that okay, let's change?
Absolutely. So my dad at the helm did a great job starting. I mean, basically, building the company from nothing until to a top 500 firm. We're somewhere around 350th largest now. It's got about 14, 15 million in gross revenue, and growing. Um, we've expanded those services over time. So not just audit and tax and accounting and HR, valuations, forensics, litigation support. We have an MSP that focuses on help desk support, servers, communications, a heavy emphasis on cybersecurity. So we've expanded services over time as well. The I've heard for years the make or break for any company is having a good team who gets it, who really understands where the company is trying to go. We whether you're an owner of a company or not, you have a duty um, to make sure that that company, which is kind of a living and breathing thing itself, succeeds. From that standpoint, we treat it very seriously that we all succeed or we all fail. And so having the culture that we've worked hard to build, that everyone plays a very important role, from intern all the way up to co-managing principal. Um, so if we work with each other and we help each other, and where I succeed, I help someone else succeed in the same way, and then vice versa, then we continue to build on each other and increase our own skills and our own success. And that only helps all of us, all the team members also succeed, but also their families, because we're all working. Yes, we have a passion for what we do, but we're working to provide opportunities for our families as well. Um, and so, we went through a period of a few years, kind of changing our model, that took a fair amount of time. And in the process, when we started out with, what we thought were one or two simple things, we really we really got as we really got into it, we understood that, some of our team members, although great people, didn't understand, didn't care to change, didn't want to change, didn't want to think about how we can be more efficient with our services, how we can get rid of uh, things that we were doing that don't add value to our relationships with our clients. We also found that we had clients that didn't want that same thing as well. So, there was a lot of turnover, planned turnover for a period of 3 years or so, just getting the right clients and team members on the bus and the wrong off.
So tell me more. How did you deal with that turnover? Because that would have made a lot of other employees nervous. That may have made your clients nervous. Because it's still a small world when it comes to accounting.
It is.
I think that's what a lot of accounting firms are afraid of. That if I change too much, my clients or my people will leave.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. I think we did a pretty good job of communicating, and in hindsight, we've just, we debrief on things, and we always find that we can do better job, and we do better the next time. But um, really going down the path of sharing with a team. All right, here's where we believe of an accounting firm in the future will be successful. There are things we're doing that aren't going to get us to where we want to be, and so we involve the team on ideas of what that is. Um, Anywhere from uh, coming up with ideas on what we're doing that everyone would like to stop doing. I mean, it was amazing how many people, and the first thing we asked was, all right, what is getting in the way of us providing that? Uh, I mean, it's really a goal to offer an outstanding client experience through a frictionless, convenient service focused on outcomes. Right. So if we are making it easy to work with us and providing value, what's getting in the way? And the first thing everyone said is time entry. I spend so much time entering time, and we know that we're going to write off 25% of whatever WIP we put in there on average. We're going to bill the rest. We know what we can build because we know what the market will bear. We know what our service is worth based on the level of service we were providing at that time. And so we decided to stop entering time. And at the time we estimated we were paying 5 people full time year round just to
Wow.
enter time. That was the equivalent. Um, so that got everyone excited. Now it's easy to say we're going to stop entering time, but the practicality of it in an industry that is very heavily driven based on the hour in the day, was difficult. The industry was not in favor of it. Accounting software doesn't account for it, doesn't allow for it. The we even had to our internal inspector quit. Our peer review didn't know whether they could review us or not, and we ended up having to get permission from the ASCPA not to enter time. And that was the first time they had been encountered with that. They said so. Um, so it was a bigger deal, that one little thing, which was our first move, um, or one of our first moves. But we had the whole team involved. The whole leadership team knew it. They understood it. We were able to explain to our team, if servicing our clients the most important thing we can do, then how can we constantly bug everyone to enter their time every single day? We need to be bugging everyone to provide a higher level of service every day, not to enter time. Um,
I love that story because that tells all accounting firm owners that when you do bring about change, yes, it's going to be difficult, but there is a way out, right? For something as simple as stop entering time, you had to go through so many things. But now that you did, as you said, like you can now talk to your people about, hey, forget about time. Let's talk about how you can do more. So I love that.
and, from a client perspective, that piece of it, even though, um, I mean, it's well known that accounting firms typically enter time and clients understand that. We found that our communication with our clients improved when we quit doing that, when we just started quoting, because they called us when they're thinking about selling a property or buying a business or whatever the case may be that might change their their strategy, their strategic goals and plans. And so it opened a line of communication much earlier than we would have otherwise on average been brought into the picture. um, which has helped us improve our relationships and their reliance on us.
I could relate to that on a personal level because my accountant here in Canada, he doesn't like charge by time. He has a fixed fee and he said the same thing that way you don't have to worry that every time you call me I'm going to turn on the meter. Like if you have any question, just call me. And now I call him more and I'm actually giving him more business because now I'm be like, hey, I didn't even know you could help me with this X thing or Y thing. So yeah, that's I get it. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. Um, I'm an offshoring guy, so I have to ask you about offshoring, especially because you started offshoring 20 years ago. That's
Right.
when nobody was offshoring. So tell me more about like how did that come to be? Like 20 years ago, like how did you think that I think we need to offshore? So
Right.
tell me more about that. What happened then?
Yeah, that was really, my dad was a visionary from that standpoint too, and that was not something commonly being done. He a through some connections, he was introduced to a firm, JC Bala in New Delhi, and their um, company Enableizer was an outsourcing company that got started around that time, maybe a little bit before then. And initially, it was so that we could um, create closer to a 24-hour operation, right? I mean, maybe it's 20 hours because there's some overlap, but um, it was really to create an operation where a lot of the work was being done at that point in time, less electronic than we are now, but was being done while we were sleeping. And then when we came in, we spent the day reviewing tax returns in the morning and then meeting with clients in the afternoon. And it worked beautiful. Um, it worked very well. Um, Now, and we're still working with them. The difference, uh, it's a little different now. We do still have that desire for the tax side of things. It works very well. For the accounting, it works well. Um, to have that capability and longer operational hours rather. Um, but it's also, these are challenging times for the industry in the United States. We've got an aging CPA population, 75% hit retirement age, I don't know, around 8 years ago. We've got a couple decades of consecutive years of declining accounting graduates. I heard there was a little bit of an uptick lately, but it's put a severe shortage of accountants that everyone's aware of, and so part of it for us is to um, have a greater ability to scale our business in the way that we want to scale it at the pace that we want to scale it. And finding a full team here is just not, it's not, I don't think it's possible um, to do it effectively as well as cost effectively.
Yep.
So, if we're just managing 5 or 10% growth a year, yeah, sure, that's easy to do. But what we are, um, our goals are much beyond that, and we're continuing those goals and seeing some good progress on it, so that we can start scaling and continue to scale at a much greater growth rate. So, um, that's a large part of the reasons why we're still doing it. Just give us that additional capability.
I think that's matches up with what I hear from other firms as well. That it started off as just, hey, let's take a few tax returns, but now it's becoming a core to their growth strategy. Sorry, I
Yeah,
got sick 2 months ago. The cough is still here. I I don't even know what to do about it anymore. But
it's tough.
oh, tell me about it. So one of the things that happens a lot, right? If you go, I spend a lot of time online looking at employee reactions. How do you address the fear of employees or your team members that, our firm is offshoring, we have been doing it for a while. How do you address their fear that my job would be replaced, or, I'm not going to get the training for the basic skills that I need because that stuff may be done offshore? So, how have you addressed that?
Yeah, so um, we have that continual dialogue between, all right, how many staff accountants, how many interns do we need here, especially on the tax side? How many do we need domestically to be able to give them the work they need to learn to be able to become seniors or managers or partners down the road? And how many do we need? How many team members do we need? Um, Offshore, and there is a careful balance there. I think in this day and age, we've learned we're not. It's very difficult to hire mid-level people, so we train them up, and that takes time. But that means we got to have something for them to do. If we're hiring them out of school. Um, I think the single biggest thing we did was talk to the team to get an understanding of what they really want to do. Now, some people love the compliance work and they just want to sit in front of a computer and just crank out tax returns. And you need some of that. You need some technicians who really understand the technical side of things. However, the majority need to be on that advisory track. They need to be on the track of helping our clients solve their issues and create plans and help them reach their goals, both personal, professionally, and family goals. So, having the team on board with the direction we're trying to go then allowed us to say, all right, well, if the goal is to really provide the advice to our clients that we have a wealth of knowledge of, then um, these types of things that we want to do make sense because it frees up our time to do things that we really want to do, but don't necessarily always have the time to do. So we've taken it a step further over the last 4 or 5 years, um, and trying to just even get rid of the tax season, essentially, smooth working with our clients, working with our team, smooth out um, the workload so that we have time to work with and accept calls for our clients who have urgent needs even in March or April, you know, rather than saying, well, let's talk next month or give us 6 weeks. Um, if they're trying to sell their business, it doesn't work that way. We have to be active in helping with them, helping them together with them. So um, it's allowed us to open the door by calming any fears with the team, um, to be able to do that because they understand the direction and where we're trying to go. I will say not everyone was on board over the years, and some people left. Um, and those that didn't get on board, we worked with. We helped them find something else if they wanted help, and we provided good recommendations. And we still have a good relationship with a lot of our team members. It just wasn't the direction we are going wasn't what they really wanted or felt comfortable with, and that's okay. It's not going to fit everyone's desires. Um, and so we just worked with everyone and kept the line of communication open.
I love that response. I think that right there is a playbook for any accounting firm owner who's nervous about what my employees are going to think and how do I address that. So now I want to talk about AI. Like when we met, you talked about a lot of things you're planning to do with AI. Um, every firm owner is thinking about it. A lot of them are just not sure. Most of them are not sure that where do we get started. So tell me about your AI journey. Like, what do you use it for now, and how did you sort of pull the plug that okay, let's do this now?
Right. Yeah. It's the accounting industry in general. The software is l- old. You know, I mean, and there are not a lot of options. And so what happens is you end up with a lot of peripheral kind of software packages that handle parts of a process, but not the full scope of a process. And all of those help, and we work with those, but they're band-aids. What's really needed is a cloud-based system with an open API to pull some of those in. Uh, that's uh, that's AI enabled that can really do a lot of that work. And that's coming. I think that's going to be an option next year in 2026. Um, so for us, it's trying to figure out. It has been trying to figure out what pieces can we put in place and then automate our processes across departmental boundaries. And that's the biggest issue. It's easy to work self-contained within the accounting department or audit or tax or whatever, but working across boundaries is where the difficulty often lies. Um, I recently had an experience uh, as a customer of another company, and on the flip side, I got a taste of what it's like to work with a company with departments that don't really communicate with each other. And so I'm having this conversation thinking that that's going to bleed over, and it doesn't. And I got to have that conversation again with a different group. And, historically, we were a lot like that. Not completely, but a lot like that. Like a lot of accounting firms, because you get so busy focusing on the work that you do, you forget to work within the team. and the software has to allow for that. For audit and tax, if you're all in on Thompson or CCH, yeah, I mean that you have some of that capability, but it could be a lot better. But when you start adding in all these other services, managed HR, accounting, valuation and support, IT, it becomes a lot more difficult. So for us, it started with the desire to figure out, all right, how can we communicate internally better so we can provide better client service? That was the simple goal. Um, sure, we've used Chat GPT and whatever to help with tempering emails, helping people learn how to write, you know, soft or direct or whatever the case may be. Um, and we have all those tools installed, but I think largely the benefit um, is going to come in 26 and 27 when there's better software available from an operational standpoint in the accounting industry. Right now, to a large degree, we're using it for research, for marketing purposes, for communication, um, things like that, that help us internally, but aren't really production oriented.
Okay, so let's that was going to be my next question. 26, 27, and like 5 years from now, you said a lot of software would help you with production. So tell me more about like what your vision is, how you think you will use AI in the next few years.
Sure. I mean, I think so. We are we're on the advisory board of a company called Iwan, who is building uh, uh, an AI platform focused on the tax side of things, starting from the engagement letter part of the process through the project management side, actually doing the tax work, including a portal, et cetera, all the way through the collections. And we're using some of that software now, but I do think as they launch next year, it's going to be a pretty powerful tool that will even get better with time. Um, what that will do is primarily allow us to become more oriented with reviewing returns and meeting with our clients. So it's gonna change the nature of our offshore teams, it, onshore and offshore teams um, functionality a little bit, on the day to day job responsibilities. But it'll allow a client to upload documents in no particular order. Software will read it, populate tax returns, and then file those documents in the appropriate folders for the 1099 or the type of 1099 or whatever the case may be. So it'll streamline that part of the process, and the tax side of things is where um, just the volume is a killer. Um, so I'm optimistic that that is going to become something that we'll use down the future that will really help our tax team become more advisory oriented. There is other software into it, other packages getting into it. You know, we're using, uh, you know, software that'll help us with dashboard technology to help our clients, help us give our clients better visibility of their own company with KPIs. So I'm also optimistic that uh, that software will allow us to make sense of all the data that we have better and present it to our clients in a manner that they can really use and get value out of. So those are the two biggest things we're after right now is visibility um, and functionality.
Okay. So you mentioned that the role of your offshore team will change as you adopt AI more. Can you talk more about how you are visioning, like what your offshore team would work on now, and how they would support client like advisory services?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think anyone to a large degree, not entirely, but to a large degree, I think the firm of the future really becomes um, a team that is astute at advisory and analytics. So those are two things that most accounting graduates are not really being trained on. And so there's going to be a gap to where the schools catch up to what the actual needs of clients are that we're going to have to train our team to do. But being able to use analytic tools, take that information and relate it to the operations of a client, and then help them understand where they can improve, where they're doing great that they can maybe leverage to do better in other areas. That's going to be the firm of the future that is very successful. Um, we treat our offshore team just like they're whether onshore or offshore, they're part of the team, and our team talks every single day. And so I think from that standpoint, it doesn't matter where you are, it's going to be uh, uh, become more about interpreting data and meeting with clients to continue to develop their own goals and their own plan and strategic plans so they can meet their goals.
Makes sense. So now, the last thing I want to talk about is an acquisition that you did. So when we met, you talked about that you'd acquired a company that didn't go quite as planned, and everybody talks about M&A right now. It's all like rainbows and sunshine. Nobody really talks about, it doesn't always go as planned. So I would love to hear more about, what happened, like how, like, um, what happened there.
Yeah, sure. We've acquired what, 5 companies, and, but the last one or 2 2 acquisitions ago, the last one was great, gave us another office geographically in Lexington, and it's been great. But the year prior to that, we acquired one, and we ended up having to unwind it, and, um, we were attracted to it in large part because they were doing some of the things that we were moving toward. Um, but they didn't have the infrastructure um, to keep pace, and so we thought it would be a good marriage from that standpoint. Unfortunately, um, the in part the team just wasn't the right team, from top to bottom. Uh, they were very open minded and very uh, wanting to move forward and not do things the old way, so to speak, and do things in new ways, so to speak, whatever that looks like. Um, but their understanding of what it took to get there is is where we failed in the communication. Um, we knew it'd be a heavy lift to really combine services. And we also knew it'd be heavy lift for us to get to the point where we wanted to be. I mean, it was a 3-year plan, and we were a year into it at this point in time when we brought them on board. So, I think there was an expectation where, in, 2 or 3 months, we could just be blowing and going. And
Hmm.
you can't change a 40-year-old company in 2 or 3 months. And so it just didn't work out from that standpoint. And it was better for us to unwind it uh, than to continue to deal with it.
So
So
how,
it was
like,
a learning opportunity, as I like to call them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I bet. I mean, so as when you made that decision to unwind it, right? How like did you have was there a lot of resistance from like internal stakeholders that no, we should spend more time on it? Or like how did that decision come to be that it's no longer worth trying to fix this? Like let's just write it off and learn our lessons and do better next time.
Yeah, and we didn't make that decision for closer to a year. I mean, we gave it a shot. It was probably a little over a year, but um, no, I mean, we left on fine terms. I mean, it was not confrontational. You
Hmm.
know, they they had certain ideas uh, of things that um, they had issues that they needed to deal with, but weren't necessarily willing to deal with them. And and so a lot of those problems were kind of shifted to 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 our accounting firm prior to merger dealing with those issues. And it has to be a joint kind of deal, you know. I think they were just thinking they're going to bring this baggage with them, and then we're just going to fix everything and move on. And that's not really the case. It had to be a two-way street, and it just wasn't. It wasn't the two-way street that we thought it would be. This particular one, we knew there was a risk involved. We were willing to accept that risk. Our due diligence told us that there was a level of risk. And so we went into it with the idea that hopefully it works out. We think it will, but there's a chance it might not. And what do we do if it doesn't? And so we already had that in mind and really that discussion to a large degree um, ahead of time. So, it wasn't a big surprise. Was it a um, from a team standpoint? I think both teams were fine with it. It's the same time, I think there was a little bit disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I understand. So, Justin, those were all my questions. Um, Thank you so much for taking the time, for being a guest, for sharing all these amazing insights. For the audience, I know you're looking at offshoring. I know you're looking at AI. I know you're looking at M&A. So I hope you were able to get some amazing insights from Justin, who has done all three, who has excelled at all three. Justin, once again, thank you so much for your time, for your insights. I sincerely appreciate it.
Yep, thank you as well. I enjoyed it.